Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to JA's Manitoba's virtual world of choices. The goal today, folks, is simple. We want to inspire you to learn all that you can about different career paths and gain insight, knowledge, and the resources necessary to pursue your dreams after high school. We're excited about the amazing 6 speakers that you're going to hear from, and we hope that you'll learn more about the career you're interested in and hopefully discover something completely new that you've never thought about or considered. After each speaker presents, we'll have a few minutes for questions. So teachers, just pop those questions into the chat box and I'll read them off to our mentors. So first, without further ado, we're going to get started. And I'm going to start with Derek Rolstone, who's the founder of Stone HR Strategies. Welcome, Derek. And if you can just take a couple minutes and tell the students about yourself, and no pressure, everybody. We only have about 2,000 students tuning in. So tell us about yourself, and then we'll jump into the Q&A, Derek.
You are muted still, Derek.
There we go. It
There you
says
go.
that I'm Greg on the screens. I wish I was Greg, but my name is Derek Rolstone, and I was an HR director at Bell and Pepsi and Suncor Energy, and then I started my own company, and I work with mostly smaller companies that need HR help. And so I'm overjoyed to be spending some time with you today. We don't have a ton of time together, so I'm going to get right into it. I've got some free tips from Derek that might be of use to you, and then we'll get you on your way to much better presenters than me. So a few ideas that I had for you that might resonate with you is number one, I know you're very early in your career, but it's not too early to set up a resume, right? Start putting a resume together that shows some jobs that you've done, maybe some part-time work, or and some things you've done in sports that you've been involved in. Put that on your resume. That's what employers like to look at. And also, if you're applying for a job, make sure you read the ad. A lot of people don't do this. They just see a job and they're like, oh, I could do that, or I'm qualified. And they don't spend the time on the ad. Spend the time. And, you know, it's like, those are the answers to the test. Like if your teachers gave you the answers in advance, right? Like when Greg Leipzig was at St. Paul's High School, he wanted the teachers to tell him in advance what was on the test, right? These are the answers to the test. So spend the time on the ad and then change your resume a little bit so it reflects what's in the ad. The other thing is on ads, on the resume, when you're applying, don't just put the job duties of what you did. Try to put some results in there. That will set you apart from other candidates. So don't just say, well, I worked at this place and I answered the phone. Okay, well, like how many phone calls did you get, right? When I was a young man, Greg Leipzig was in the painting business. He roped me into doing some painting one day at a car dealership on Portage Avenue. Like if he had that on his resume, he should say, hey, we painted 22 houses, right? So try to come up with some numbers that help people understand the work that you did, okay? Not just what you did, but how you did it and what the results were. The other thing is, there's so many errors that I see on a daily basis from people much older than you that should know better. Like spell check doesn't work if you put the wrong word in, but it's spelled correctly. Like I get lots and lots of resumes from people that say that they're mangers, right? That's not good, right? They're managers. Or since we live in Canada, if you're spelling center, your teachers will tell you this, you're spelling center, that's with R-E. Or if you're spelling labor or color, that has a U in it. So make sure that you're getting it right. So when you're putting a resume together, when you're putting a cover letter together, and I know some of you are like, cover letter, people still do those? Yeah, people ask for those. And the reason they do it is they want to see if you can communicate. They also want to see if you can follow instructions. So when you put a cover letter together, it's tough to edit your own work. Make sure you read it through, but get someone else to read it. Okay, get one of your classmates or get your mom or dad to take a look at it and say, hey, do you see any errors in this? Is it consistent? Did I spell, not just spell things, but is the grammar right? And there's guys like me that they'll look at that stuff and say, hey, wait a minute, this is not a great candidate because there's a lot of errors on this page. So make sure you do that. The other thing is when you get an interview, okay, so you've sent your resume in through Indeed or wherever, or you sent it directly to the company. If they ask you to come for an interview, when you spend time, like research the company, don't just show up and not know anything about it. It's easy to find out, right? On the internet, find out about the company. Answer the questions that they ask you. Don't ramble on about some other stuff that they didn't ask you. So make sure you answer the questions. Arrive early, okay? Don't get there 1 minute before. But don't get there half an hour before either. That's awkward. Get there 10 minutes before the interview, and make sure you have some questions that you have for them. It's not just them picking you. You got to pick them too. It's a tight labor market, right? And when you're applying at these places, from your research, you know a little bit about the company. But if they say, hey, what questions do you have? It's disappointing as an interviewer when we've had a good interview and we say, hey, Sally, what questions do you have? And they say, oh, none, right? That's no good. Have some questions. Here's a question. Here's a free one from Derek. Tell me about the culture of this place. Or what kind of training would I get here at ABC Company? Ask those kinds of questions. They'll like you. They judge you on not just the answers you give, but the questions that you ask. And for goodness sake, please, like, don't ghost people, right? Like, I blame, social media and maybe your parents for this, but like, don't ghost people. Like, if you're not coming, just tell us, tell the company, tell the recruiter, I can't make it. I got another job, or you know what? I don't think it's for me. That's fine. That's great. Just tell us, because people, when they ghost, word gets around. Winnipeg's not that big. And word gets around. I get people applying for clients of mine. I already know them. They suck. They applied at another place, right? They're on our do not hire list because they ghosted us. So don't do that. Okay. So I close by saying, like, there are, I'm sorry to tell you, low expectations for your generation. If you can just be like pretty good, if you can just show up, if you can have some questions, if you have a resume without spelling errors, like, they'll probably hire you, right? So just do a little bit better than the rest of your peers and you will do fine. Okay, you can see behind me here my pictures from the 1992 Jets rookie card. So go Jets. Hopefully they can pull it out tonight. Greg, is that kind of what you were looking for? Greg's on mute.
Yep, that's fantastic, Derek. Thank you. Well done. Kate, couple questions. So everyone, please send in your questions, and a couple have already come in. So let me fire them at you. Is it ever too early to create a LinkedIn account? And what if I don't have much to put on it? What if I don't have a big resume?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I've been on LinkedIn for like 13 years, even for young people. Again, that will set you apart, right? And you need to be very conscious of what's on your social media. And it's happened lots of times where we've checked out people's social media and frankly not hired them because of that, because of stupid pictures they have, of stupid things they might have said on there. Maybe not that many of you are on Facebook, right? I know it's for older people, but some of you, you're on Instagram or Twitter or other sites like that. And, we've got people, right? I've got someone in my office. She's a first-year engineering student, my daughter. She checks out people's social media for me all the time. So we look at that stuff, but absolutely get going on the LinkedIn, put some things in there, put a nice headshot of you, not a shot of you holding up a fish, right? Put a nice headshot and get going. It will set you apart. And then just put some of your resume stuff on there.
Okay. Quick one. How do you feel about headshots on a resume?
Great, right? Do it or don't do it. It's not required, right? But what I do like, going back to my last answer, is you should put in the header of your resume, like, your resume is, I should have said this before, like, that's your brand, that's your point of sale. So it's got to look good. Not only does it have to be accurate, like we talked about, but it's got to look good. And so when you post or send in your resume on Indeed, right? That's where a lot of people go, but they put it in a kind of Indeed format, which isn't great. Get it in Word or PDF. have it look good, bolding, boxes, lots of different lines to highlight what you've done, and then add your LinkedIn profile, the URL from your LinkedIn profile, put that under your address and phone number.
Okay.
So maybe you don't need the headshot, but if people can click on the LinkedIn, they'll see you.
They can see it over there. Okay. What platform should I use to apply for jobs? Do you know of any career fairs coming up for summer work?
That's, yeah, great. I don't know. I'm sure there's lots around. It's not exactly my market, but you know, just do your research at universities. And colleges, they have them. But you even at a young age, you should be looking on Indeed. That's where a lot of jobs get posted. And there's jobs out there. You got to start building your resume now.
Okay. Speaking of resumes, my parents told me to drop off my resumes in person. Do people still do that?
Yeah, that's funny you say that. I maybe like your parents have this idea where you'd, you know, kind of hit the streets, right? Feet on the streets, hit the bricks, right? And go drop off resumes. Sometimes people, like, when they get those, they're not sure what to do with them because they want to have it electronic. I'd say do it electronically, but maybe drop it off. And if and especially if it's a small business and they're right there and the owner's right there, the manager's right there, they might start asking you questions. So that can be, you know, that's not taboo. It's a good approach to do both.
Okay. What do you think of, the question is framed this way, I'm paraphrasing, but if someone turns you down for a job, and you don't get that job, what do you think of a handwritten note to them in some fashion, thanking them for the interview, just sort of, I mean, they're calling it buttering it up, for lack of a better word. And then I guess more broadly speaking, what do you think of handwritten notes?
Yeah, I like it. And I wish I had mentioned it earlier. I mean, there's lots of stuff we could talk about today. There's nothing, I love a good thank you note. And maybe before you've been rejected, right? Like right away, like that afternoon, like if you and I were doing an interview right now, Greg, you were interviewing me for a job, like within an hour, I would have an email to you. Hey, thanks. That was great. I really liked, and reminding them, hey, I really liked when we talked about my experience doing this. I'm really excited about our next steps together. Right. So I like the handwritten note. That's a nice touch, but it might take longer. And I think you need to move quickly on a thank you note. And I think email is appropriate for that. You know, I know a lot of young people want to do texting all the time, but some things you got to do by email. This is an email thing.
Okay. When should I call a business to see if they've considered my application?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Like, I don't mind getting those calls, but on the other hand, I mean, if we've got 100 applicants, I mean, if you applied, we got it. And if we don't reach out to you, it's because you're not the right one, right? Yeah. So I mean, if you're qualified and we're interested, we're gonna reach out to you sooner rather than later. You know, having said that, you know, someone that kind of puts their foot in the door, I mean, that shows some initiative. And so it happens to me sometimes. People call and we're working on something for a client, and I'll take those calls if those work out. But I'd say if those people don't get back to you, don't be offended. You know, maybe you're just not what they're looking for. Move on. Right, next.
Yeah, exactly. This is a really broad question, but when going for an interview, what is something the interview is looking for most?
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying before, they want you to answer the questions. What they're really looking for is fit, right? So when they ask you, hey, tell me about yourself, right? That's a pretty open-ended question. They don't really care about how many sisters you have, right? And where you went to elementary school and that you played t-ball. What they really are asking you is, when they say, tell me about yourself, they're saying, tell me why you're a fit at this company. Tell me why you would work here, right? Like, presuming you're qualified, that's why they're interviewing you. So what they're checking for in the interview is not that you're qualified. They're checking that you're going to fit in with the people there.
Gotcha. I have time for one more question, and it's a question we got last year. Nobody's asked it, but I think it's worth repeating. When should students be looking on Indeed for job postings? Is there a certain time of the week, time of the day, that kind of thing?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, when does Indeed peak in terms of usage? Well, it's like Monday morning at 8:30 and Friday afternoon at 4:30. Why does it peak then? Because people are like, oh my God, I can't take another week at this place, right? I'm convinced a lot of people are just one bad conversation with their crappy boss away from going on Indeed, right? So,
Yeah.
in terms of when they should look, it doesn't really matter. I'd say though, you don't need to look at Indeed 4 times a day if you're actively job searching, but you need to look once a day. And let me add one more thing. You should apply when you see a job you're qualified for, like, and it says, oh, applications accepted till May 10th. I can tell you 100% of recruiters and managers, they do not wait till May 10th and press some magic button and these resumes come out. They start looking right away. So, and I can almost guarantee you that none of the people on this Zoom are going to get more qualified for the next for that job in the next week. So when you want to apply within 24 hours, because recruiters spend more time, right? Like when I watched this diving meet in the Olympics a couple of years ago, and I noticed that the guy that dove first on the 10 meters, he's in first place, right? And he might not win, but he's in first for now. So get into that gold medal position, apply right away or within 24 hours, and get in one of those lead positions, because recruiters, managers, owners will spend more time with your resume when it's, the third one in, not the 53rd one in.
Awesome. Okay,
that
that is fantastic as usual, Derek. I think that is just awesome. Students got lots of great tips. Thanks for your time today. Take care.
I forgot to say that I was in Junior Achievement in the 1980s, and I just love it. And I love the work that you guys do. So keep doing what you're doing, Greg.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Okay.
Next up is Tori McTavish, who is a paramedic in Boundary Trail. Tori, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump into a Q&A?
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name's Tori. I'm a paramedic in Southern Health. It's part of Shared Health Region. I work out of the Boundary Trails area. I've been a paramedic for about 2.5 years now. So I'll just kind of talk about how I came about paramedicine. So in school, I went to Shaftesbury High School. I wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted to do. I kind of knew something in healthcare, but I didn't really know. And there's just so many careers out there that aren't really talked about, especially in allied health. So at first I was like, well, do I want to become a nurse? Do I want to try to go to med school? I felt like those were kind of my options. But neither of them really felt like they fit me. So I took all 3 sciences in grade 11 and then 2 of the maths in grade 11 as well, just to try to keep my options open. And then in grade 12, I took biology and chemistry, and I just didn't take physics. But again, I kind of had the idea in mind that I knew I wanted to do something in healthcare. So I just wanted to make sure I had 2 out of the 3 sciences to hopefully let me apply to whatever program I wanted to. And then I was just kind of on my way home from school one day, and I saw an ambulance go by, and I was like, hey, that's a career that I never thought of. So I went home and I looked up paramedicine, and then Red River College came up. So I ended up applying to Red River College and got in. There are 2 other programs you can apply for. So there's Red River, a private company called Criticare, and then Brandon, which you get your fire as well. So when I applied, I had to take a year off because they switched everything over to interviews rather than just applying with a high GPA. So I had to do an interview, fitness test, and then immunizations and other little things. And then I got in, and it was 1-year program. It is now 2 years. Criticare is still 1 year or 10 months, something like that. And then I think Brandon is around the 2-year mark now. But basically all the concepts are the same. So you do a lab and a class portion. The lab is just kind of going over, learning how to do assessments, giving medications, drawing up medications, splinting, all the stuff you need hands-on. And then you do your clinical and your practicum portion. So for me, I went to Brandon. That's just where I was placed. You can kind of get placed anywhere. They try to accommodate you, but I ended up going to Brandon, which was really great. So I did a month in hospital where you do a few days in the ER, a few days on every ward, and just kind of get a feel for the hospital side of things. So when you drop off your patient, kind of what happens after. And then you do your practicum portion. So I was placed in Brandon with the fire EMS group because they're fire EMS. Most other places are just EMS or fire besides the city. It's a bit complicated. But I did 4 weeks. So we call them tours. A work week is a tour. So we do 4 on, 4 off because it's shift work. So one tour is 2 days, which are 12 hours, and then 2 nights. So I did 4 rotations of that. And you're assigned a preceptor. So you get assigned a paramedic that is going to guide you through every call. You spend all day with them every day, and you go on every call that they go on. And the idea is that it's like a hands-on practice to being a paramedic without the responsibility of being a paramedic. So it's just your chance to like go out there and do calls and learn everything you can, do all your assessments without the responsibility. So your preceptor is never going to let anything happen to your patient. If stuff is, going badly, then they'll take over. But yeah, you just kind of get that hands-on experience. And then after that, you have to write your exam. So the exam for Manitoba is called COPPER. It's the Canadian Organization of Paramedic Regulators. Basically, it's like a 2-3 hour exam, and passing it will get you your license. Once you get your license, you can then apply for jobs all over the province. You can apply to other jobs in Canada, but you have to transfer your license from one province to another. So that's something to take into consideration. It's not Canada-wide just yet. So yeah, I applied for every region: Southern, Interlake, Northern, and Prairie Mountain Health. And I got interviews with all 3, well, 3 out of the 4, but ended up just taking a job in Southern Health, and I've been there ever since. And so yeah, it's been about 2.5 years, and it's going good, I think. Yeah, I don't really know what else. Are we in time for questions, or do you want me to keep going?
Well, if you have anything you want to if you want to go through, or I've already got some questions, whatever you want.
Yeah, we can go to questions.
Sure. Okay. Okay, big one right out of the chute. What does it cost me to get all of that education if I want to be a paramedic?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what the schooling costs were, but you can go on the Red River website, and they have every semester how much it will cost. It's definitely not cheap, but most school isn't cheap. And then as far as your practicum and all of that will be built into your cost for school, except for any living conditions. So I was lucky enough to know somebody in Brandon, so I could stay with somebody. If you know somebody in a different area outside of Winnipeg, you can always request to go to that area, and then you'll have somebody to stay with. Otherwise, you kind of have to find your own accommodations for your practicum and clinical rotation, or you can drive. And then the licensing fee, so to get your license, is around $500 a year, but most employers will pay that for you. So this year our employer paid it for us, and next year they will as well. City, every year they pay for their employees licensing fee.
Okay. Sticking with money, what's the salary range? Do you get paid hourly? Do you get paid bi-weekly? What's sort of the starting wage? What's the most someone can make?
Yeah. Well, the thing right now about healthcare is we have some staffing issues, as I'm sure a lot of people are aware of in the news. But so yeah, there's lots of overtime is the downfall of that, which is a good thing for yourself. So the way that it works is you get paid hourly, but every year, so it's city and rural. So rural, everything outside of the perimeter runs differently. So everything outside of the perimeter is called shared health. They run the same, and then Winnipeg is their own thing. So Winnipeg, you do get paid more than rurally, but rural, the starting wage right now is $24.9 an hour, and then for 5 years you get a raise. It's about $1 to $2 for up to 5 years. So I think the max at the level that I am is 33, but we're hoping to get a new contract and it will go up, is hopefully what they're thinking. And then that is every hour you get paid that, and then everything after 12 hours you get paid overtime. If you pick up an overtime shift, you get paid double time. And then if you work an overtime shift on holidays, it's double time and a half.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I presume you're always with another coworker. And if that's the case, how do you decide who gets to drive the ambulance and what's that like?
Yeah, so I'll just kind of touch on the different levels. So when you go to school, you'll be going to school for a level called primary care paramedics. We shorten it to PCP. After you do that and you work for a few years, you can go back to school and become an advanced care paramedic, which just means you can give more medications and do more things in your scope of practice. So most of the time, rurally, we'll have PCPs. Sometimes you'll be paired up with someone that is a higher level than you. But as far as like who drives and who attends the call, we just switch off. So one call I'll drive and then the next call I'll attend. But if you were to go on a more serious call and you have your partner that is higher trained, then they'll take that call for you, even if they did the call before. So it just depends, but most of the time it's just we do call for call.
Okay. Obviously, this is a stressful job. How do you handle the stress and obviously the life and death situations? Do you have anxiety around that? Do you get stressed out about it? How do you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, the job's not for everybody. You do have to be prepared, but that's kind of why they also do your practicum rotation. You can get a feel for the job without having to commit to, getting your license and everything. So you don't always, it just calls come in waves. So you might not get any really bad calls on your practicum, or you might get a lot. So it just kind of depends, but that's partially why they do practicum, is to get you like into the field and get a feel for it before committing. But as far as dealing with it, it just kind of varies person to person. Like the one thing that kind of stuck with me the most is one of my teachers in school. It's hard to relate to until you're in the profession, but I kind of asked the same question to him, and he said, like, you go on a call and you zoned in and you do everything that you have to do, and then after that call you just zone out and you're no longer there and you just kind of forget about it. So I would say like the best thing is really trying not to like think about it and dwell on calls after. Like, you're going to do the best you can, and then after that, like, it's not in your hands anymore. So I think just having like a good group of friends and a good social life, and even though there's tons of overtime to work, like, it's really important to take your days off and get a break from that type of stressful environment.
For sure. Okay, we have time for one more question. And this should be an easy one. What do you love about your job?
Yeah. Well, there's lots of good stuff. Like, it's kind of, I wanted a job in healthcare that I wasn't going to be under a roof the whole day. So, we go outside, we travel very far for a lot of the day, especially rurally. We can end up kind of anywhere in the province, just depending on where the calls happen. I guess the good part is like going on a call, and it can be really rewarding when someone's having a medical emergency and you're able to actually do something that will help them like right in that moment and potentially save their life, or you do save their life. So yeah, it doesn't happen every day, that's for sure. Like, we have lots of calls that are non-emergent, but when you do get emergent calls and you're able to do something, it can be really rewarding.
That's terrific, I bet. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Tori. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay, take care. Next up is Anna Boris. Anna is a culinary research assistant at Prairie Research Kitchen RRC Polytech. Welcome, Anna. If you want to say a few words, and then we'll jump to Q&A.
Yeah. So, I mean, my journey, my career journey has kind of been somewhat of a roller coaster. When I was in high school, I did a vocational program at Kildowney's Collegiate, doing the food program there. But I wasn't able to complete it because I only had found out about it in my grade 11 year. So I couldn't finish the whole program, but I always loved to cook. So I did work in a few restaurants while I was still in high school. And then after I graduated, I I just was kind of disenchanted with working on a line in restaurants. You know, it's pretty rough, and especially that was 15 years ago. Kitchens are a little different now, but it wasn't the greatest atmosphere for me, and the hours and the wage, it wasn't great. So I didn't go to school right away. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I started, working for my dad. He owns a glass business. So I was just doing clerical work just to kind of make some money. And then I decided that I wanted to kind of switch gears, and I ended up taking photography at Prairie View School of Photography. I got my professional photographer's diploma, and then kind of freelanced for a bit. I did some photography jobs here and there, weddings, newborns, engagement, all sorts of family shots, and I wanted to kind of branch out a little more. So I ended up, as I think I would have been 18 or 19, I moved to Toronto and just kind of hit the ground running with life. I was young. I wanted to experience everything, and try to start up a photography business while I was working, because I always had my cooking. So I could work in restaurants while I lived away. Unfortunately, that was during the recession, of 2008, 2009. So people weren't going out to eat a whole lot. So I ended up having to move back to Winnipeg, still kind of not knowing what I wanted to do. And I ended up going back to work for my dad at a desk. And although, it wasn't what I wanted to do, I learned so many skills, networking skills, basic skills as far as properly, composing emails and talking with customers and clients and all that side of thing. And then the stress would get to me. I moved up in the ranks a little bit. I worked there for almost 10 years. And I noticed that I would come home and I would bake. That was my way to deal with stress. I would come home and either cook or bake. And when it got to the point where I was bringing in baking every day to work, my mother finally kind of nudged me, and she says, why don't you go to cooking school? You've always wanted to cook. And so I was kind of at this point in my life where it was like, well, I've already had this career for 10 years. Like that was a huge risk for me. It was to all of a sudden, I had a house, I had bills, got to get paid. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to go to cooking school. So I applied. They took me like 4 months later to Red River College, and I did the culinary diploma program, 2-year program. And just one thing I wanted to do, because I was fairly established, but in this day and age of social media, I kind of wanted to document my journey. So I created an Instagram account to kind of show the behind the scenes of a culinary student. So I started Winnipeg Culinary Stew, and it slowly started gaining followers, just because I think a lot of people are interested in seeing, how the workings of culinary school go. And honestly, it was the hardest 2 years of my life. People kind of think that, culinary school, could be kind of easy. It's, flipping eggs and, flipping burgers, but it's not the case whatsoever. It's incredibly difficult, and you only get out of it what you put into it. And that goes with a lot of things with life. If you put in the hard work, you will be rewarded for it. Absolutely. So I graduated top of my class in 2019, and with the program, there is the Prairie Research Kitchen. So I knew, as I mentioned, I didn't want to work in restaurants, but I didn't know what else was available to me. So we had the Prairie Research Kitchen. They came down and talked to our class, and they kind of showed us what they do. And so what they do is they work with small and medium-sized enterprises. So it could be anybody from, a small, business from St. Norbert Market all the way to someone that produces food products that are, international. And so what we do is we do recipe development, we do food photography, which I thought was like, oh, hey, I've already got that skill. We do product development, kind of prototyping for new businesses. And so now I've been there for about four years, and it's kind of fun. Now I get to walk up and down the aisles of a co-op and I can see, oh yeah, I helped develop that food product, or go through, the local section, and I can probably, look at the whole aisle and pinpoint probably 10 projects that I've worked on. So it's pretty gratifying. It's pretty neat to be able to see your work on the market shelves. So that's one side of my life. I also work for the Manitoba beef producers. So they require a food expert. I don't like that term because I don't feel like I'm an expert on anything, but working with Manitoba beef producers, I create recipes for them. I do all their food photography for the recipes. I write food articles. And then they also have a segment with CTV's Great Taste of Manitoba. So I get to go in studio and we do, I get to record 2 episodes, and I get to do cooking demonstrations alongside their host, Des Daniels. And it's kind of neat to be able to be in that situation. And so I've managed to create the Instagram account. I've got, this research kitchen position, researching innovative food trends and products, kind of keeping my finger on the pulse in the food world. And then I've got, the beef producers, where I have a presence online and on TV. So it's kind of neat how, there's so many different facets to, when people think of the restaurant or food industry, you think of hotels, golf courses, restaurants. People don't necessarily think there's so much more to offer than just those, working on a line. So I've been pretty fortunate with my career path that has kind of opened up so many different opportunities within the kind of the food sector. And it just keeps going. It just keeps going, and more doors open. And I still don't think like, I'm 35 years old and I still don't know what I want to do. So, and that's okay, because I get to do fun things along the way, and those fun things, pay my bills, so, which is great.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, it's been a journey, but I'm kind of in a good place, and I'm getting closer to the dream job.
Awesome. Okay, I've got a few questions I got to get to. That is fascinating. First of all, what's the name of your Instagram account?
So it is Winnipeg Culinary Stew. So it's WPG Culinary Stew, STU.
Okay, perfect. What's the coolest product you've developed?
So we like to make jokes at the PRK that we develop best mediocre food ever, because we are following food trends, and food trends these days are going towards plant-based. They're going towards upcycled ingredients, they're alternative proteins. So I worked on a project in the last year or two, which was actually a neat project. I worked with this client. He's out west. He's from Alberta. He collects brewer spent grain and spent coffee grounds. So he goes to all the brewers in the area, and he goes to all the coffee shops. He collects all the spent grain that the brewers use and the spent coffee grounds, and he puts it through a process and he makes it into flour. So he came to us and he says, hey, I've got this, this upcycled ingredient. Can we turn it into something like a baking mix? So we took his spent grain, which looks and kind of tastes like sawdust, and we turned it into a pancake mix. And with the coffee grounds, we used both products to turn it into a brownie mix. And he's been winning awards out west for these products. It
Okay,
was a
well,
really neat project.
can you buy it in Manitoba?
I don't think it's available in Manitoba. You can buy it online.
Oh, okay,
It's called Ground Up.
perfect.
Yeah, and you can buy the pancake mix and the brownie mix online.
Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
pivoting. Does taking the culinary course in high school help you to get entry into Red River?
If you complete, then you will get your, I believe it's your apprenticeship level 1. It doesn't help you get into the program. It just helps, it just takes care of certain courses within the program. So I don't think
Okay.
you would have to take your WMIS or your food handlers or anything like that.
Okay, would you ever want to open your own restaurant?
No.
Okay. Cut to the, don't beat around the bush, Anna. What?
Yeah, never.
Okay. You got to give me a 20-second answer. Why not?
Okay.
Why not?
Why not? Honestly, just the stress is just not worth it for me. I love cooking. I love everything about food, but that is a whole different passion. That's not so much about the food. It's about running a business. It's about,
Yeah.
Running a ship, and that's just not my style.
Okay. Looking back on your career, were there things not in your education that you wish had been included in it?
Specifically to the culinary education?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think the 2-year program could easily be a 3 or 4-year program.
Really?
Which inside scoop, I think they are actually working on. We're trying, especially in the research side of things, we're trying to work with the culinary school to incorporate more research, more stuff about nutrition, more stuff about food science, like fermentation, food safety. I like to say that we learn in culinary school, we learn the how to do things, but we don't necessarily learn the why. And so at the PRK, we learn more of why do we do this instead of just how.
That is fascinating. We could probably go on for another half an hour like we could with all our mentors. So thanks so much, Anna, for spending the time with us. That was fascinating and just terrific.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, take care. Next up is Barrett Ferguson, who is the owner of the Pleasant Plumber. Barrett, if you want to take a couple minutes and tell us about yourself and your path, and then we'll jump into some questions. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. My name's Barrett. I've been a plumber for almost 20 years. When I got into it, I didn't know I wanted to be a plumber. In high school or even as a kid, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I actually wanted to go into the Air Force out of high school. So I applied for that, and I was told I was going to be a shoo-in. So I sat around in my parents' basement for a few months with my dad coming home every day, asking me if I got a job yet, waiting to go to, get sent for boot camp or whatever you call it for a few months. And then I got notified that due to some of my allergies that I wouldn't be a suitable fit for the Air Force. So then I started looking at other career options. And when I was looking in the newspaper, I didn't want that. I was looking for a long-term career, not make $2,000 a week with all the stars around the ad. So plumber, drain cleaner / plumber ad was in there, and I thought, that's more of a career. So I took that path and never looked back. I would be going to jobs for customers and stuff, and then customers would be asking me, do you own the company? Or and I'd say, no, I don't own the company. And customers would often tell me, like, you should, like, you looks like you're passionate about it. And that kind of got my wheels turning, sort of like thinking, I think I could do this on my own. I love the work. I'd be volunteering for people's on call because I just love being in the field, and that gratification you get when you help somebody out. We were doing lots of jobs every day. So just getting people's water running or back on, people are always happy to see you, and usually pretty happy at the end. So it's been a great career. I love the education program at Red River. It's also in Brandon if you can't get into Red River, but it's a really good program. And they pay you to go to school. So, I mean, it's pretty awesome. Right? I mean, you can make money while you're going to school, and then Some of the levels will actually reward you with $1,000 if you pass. So it's a pretty awesome way, you know, especially nowadays with things being so expensive and stuff, you know, you can be in your young 20s making a good career. So I love it.
Few questions right off the hop. How long was the education process?
So when I was doing it, it was a 5-year program. They've changed it to 4 with an option. So what they used to do, they used to have it that you would take your gas in level 3, but what they were finding was some guys were just sticking around getting their gas and then taking off and not finishing the program. So then they switched it to a 5-year program where they would hold your red seal for your plumbing until you get your gas in level 5. But now they've made things more optional. So you can actually go to school for 4 years, get your plumbing, and you don't have to continue to get your gas ticket, which I always recommend to people to go ahead and do anyway. But it is an option. If you have no passion to be or interest to be in the gas industry, you can just go for 4 years and get your red seal. They're trying to make it more universal across Canada so that if you're in BC starting your apprenticeship, you can move to Winnipeg or Manitoba and just pick up where you left off. That's the whole idea, trying to make it more universal countrywide.
Okay, so someone is asking, is there value to doing the apprenticeship program instead of the 5 years?
Well,
Does that make sense?
the 5 years is an apprenticeship program. So
It is. Okay. Okay.
like they have pre-employment. So they have pre-employment where you can go to school for 9 months before getting signed on with a company. But I always recommend people to kind of go through the company and like learn that way, and then they'll send you to school.
Yeah. Okay. What's your favorite part of owning your own company?
Oh man, that's a good question. I guess, well, as I mentioned, I love to work. So I mean, the opportunity to put lots of hours in is there. I think making people happy, having that opportunity, and then also provide a living for people. You know, like I have anywhere from 10 to 15 employees at a time. So, you know, we're able to provide for a lot of families. So that's a good feeling.
So, and someone's asking about income expectations. So for your employees, for somebody typically out of school who's just starting out, how much would they be making?
You know, probably anywhere from $18 to $21 an hour as a helper. And then this can progress pretty quickly depending on the individual and how quickly they catch on.
Do you find that when you hire somebody, are they ready to go right out of the chute, or like they're on their own on calls, or do they need to be sort of tag teaming with somebody for a while?
That's a good question. It totally depends on the individual. I've seen both where we have a guy who he's been riding along and it's been, you know, quite a while, like we're looking at a year plus, and you know, we try to shoot them out of the nest a little bit and get them to do a simple service call and they just freeze, right?
Yeah.
But most of the guys are pretty handy and catch on rather quickly. There's adequate amount of support. We have meetings every week where we're talking about customer service, quality workmanship, techniques and stuff like that in the meetings. And then there's lots of resources for guys when they're in the field if they do need help. We have lots of guys to help, but for the most part, they do catch on pretty quickly, but it does depend on the individual for sure.
Okay. What's the scariest part of owning your own business?
The scariest part of owning your own business.
What keeps you up at night, if anything?
I mean, in the beginning, the fear of the unknown, right? I think not knowing that things will get busy, right? Things will usually sort themselves out. After doing it for a little while, you don't hit the panic button really too often. But I think a pretty big fear for any business owner is there's financial fears, right? Paying the bills, paying overhead, paying taxes, all of that stuff, right? That's probably in the beginning, that was my biggest fear or thing that would be keeping me up at night, I guess.
Okay. You said your company has how many men? 15, I think you said?
We have 10 trucks on the road, and then 3 to 4 office staff.
Okay, and do you see yourself, like, do you want to expand your business, or do you feel like your business sort of hits a sweet spot and it's either now or it's at a certain level and then you don't want it to get too big? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. It was just me for the first few years, and we're 24/7, 365. So I wouldn't want to do that ever again. That was really exhausting. But and then it was me and another guy for 2 years, or 2 or 3 years, and then we grew it quite a bit before COVID, and during COVID. Grew quite a bit. I would like to keep growing. I'm very passionate about expansion and growing, and not hitting that plateau and getting too comfortable. That's usually pretty dangerous in any industry or business, is getting too comfortable or content, I think. So I'm always looking to grow and expand. I did open up another business, like an HVAC business, so we're trying to get that up and going.
Okay.
So hopefully have, between the two, like the HVAC side of things and plumbing side of things, have my long-term goal is to have about 25 employees.
Okay. Well, that's perfect. That's all the questions we have. I really appreciate you joining us, Barrett. That was really fascinating, and have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Next up is Zach Odbach. Zach is a chiropractor with River Heights Family Chiropractic. Zach, welcome. And if you just want to take a couple minutes to tell us about yourself and your path, and we'll jump into a Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me, first of all. My name's Zach. I'm currently working at River Heights Family Chiropractic in the city, as well as I actually just joined on to Superman Chiropractic in Winkler. So I'll be driving out to Winkler a couple days a week and helping out the rural community out there. So much like everybody else has kind of said, I didn't really know what I was going to do coming out of high school. So I went into University 1. Just took a bunch of business classes, science classes, a couple of things here and there. And I remember I was sitting in my anatomy class and learning about the body and muscles and nerves. And I went home that day and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something health related. Searched up just a couple of things. And the one thing that brought me to chiropractic was the manual manipulation that we can do with the spine. I think it's one of the best things that you can do for it. And then again, just going to school, I went to Minneapolis, Northwestern Health Sciences University. It was just over a 3-year program I was in the States for. And it's very hands-on, it's very demanding. You don't really know how much a chiropractor puts their body through until you actually go to school and learn how to adjust and do all that fun stuff. So going to school, the first 5 semesters, there's 10 of them in total, so the first 5 is really science and school related. You're heavy in the books, you're studying for exams and doing a whole bunch of that. And then as we move on in school towards the last half of it, it's more internships and getting more hands-on, more in-lab work, and doing actually the stuff that you want to do, because nobody really wants to be studying sciences and chemistry and all that stuff for the majority of their time. So once I was done school, I had always decided I was coming back to Winnipeg. My family was here, my fiance's here, so that was kind of a no-brainer for me. Luckily, I got a job close to home, so I'm working there a couple days a week. And then, like I said, I joined another practice in Winkler, which helped pay some student loans, help just bring a little bit of extra money in. And yeah, I mean, the good thing about chiropractic is it's a whole bunch of different things collectively in one. You have spinal manipulation, you have kind of the exercise science behind it, where you can give out exercises. So you're not just focusing your time on the patients while they're in the clinic. You're expecting them to do their homework, so they can help them get healthier by themselves away from the clinic. So when a patient comes in, we look at it more as a partnership as opposed to a patient client kind of thing. And so we're really helping. We're trying to help the patient learn why they're feeling the way they're feeling, what their issues are, and different ways that we can help them, whether it's through strictly chiropractic or some exercises, nutrition we also do as well. and if need be, send them out for referrals, because I understand that I can't do everything. And there's a lot of other great healthcare practitioners out there that can help enhance the work that I'm doing as well. So one of the big things about chiropractic is, and one of the things that isn't really known is that, and one thing that I myself am trying to get out there is that it's a very inclusive profession, and we do work well with others. I know there might be a little bit of an issue with some chiropractors, but mostly the new generations coming up are happy to work with a lot of other people, and it's not just an ego thing anymore. It's a whole medical thing that we could work on with everybody. So that's kind of the gist of it. Greg, if you want to get to some questions, that's cool with me.
For sure. We've got a few questions that have already come in. Can you hear me okay, Zach?
Yep.
Okay. All right. The big one. How much does the education cost? Now, I know you said you did it across the border, but
Yeah.
if you've got some idea of what it costs up here, and also I'm sure we're curious as to what it costs down there.
Yeah. So the only school in Canada is in Toronto.
Okay.
I never even looked into it because I had no interest in living in Toronto for 3 years. So, and the nice thing about Minneapolis specifically was they gave us some reciprocity. So they took a percent because of the dollar off the tuition for us.
Okay.
So I think all in all, it was around, I want to say it was around 10 to 12,000 depending per semester. So like I said, we had those 10 semesters. So it was around 120,000 Canadian dollars, I believe, for the program.
Okay. And that took you, I don't know, you may have said it already, but that took you how long?
It was just over 3 years. So it was 3 years and 3 months.
Okay. So when you are looking for a job, are you ready to hit the ground running? Sort of the same question I was asking our previous, there's like, are you ready to hit the ground running, or do you work under someone's supervision for a while?
So there's a couple different ways you can go about it. You can fully open up. You have full licenses, full everything to do whatever you want. I think the wise decision and what I chose is to work underneath somebody, so you have a little bit of recognition. You're not just some new face trying to help people. You have a little bit of respect from the other doctors that have worked there previous. And I think for myself it's nice to be able to lean on somebody. You know, if we're taking X-rays and I'm not exactly sure of what I'm seeing, I call the other doctor in the room, let him confirm what I'm thinking or tell me I'm completely wrong and tell me to look for this side of it next time I do take this certain X-ray.
Okay. You're working for someone right now. Do you have an idea of, like, do you want to continue on this path? Do you want to one day own your own clinic? Is that of interest to you?
Yeah, I think owning would be that would be the next step. So I'm considered an associate doc. I think for the next 3 to 5 years I'll be that, just so I can build my patient base, get referrals in, obviously make some money to be able to open up my own place. And then the other option would be potentially to buy out the doctor that I'm with now and just keep working where I am. So I think eventually most doctors would say they want to own their own, obviously better income, but there's a lot more stress with it, right? It's not just being able to go there, take care of business there, and then leaving the office and going home to your family. It's having to do work at home because you have, employees, you have a whole business to take care of on itself. But I think I would like to own my own eventually.
Back to the schooling. How hard is it to get into the school in the US?
It's not very.
Okay.
I know it doesn't sound great. You have a couple prereqs. I didn't even graduate undergrad. You need 3 years of, so you need 90 credit hours, which is equivalent to 3 years of full time at university. Certain prereqs, and the school I was at, they basically take everybody, and they're really good. It's a very intro program to start. So even if you're not great at certain things, you basically learn the basic stuff over again.
Okay. Yeah. How do you find people to work on? How do you find your clients?
That's a great question. That's what I've been wrapping my mind around for the past month as I'm trying to get some new patients. So I've done a couple screenings. I've been at the RBC Convention Center for like the home and reno show, the Wonderful Wedding Show. I was there as well. It's pretty much just going out, especially as a new dog. I think it's important going out and people seeing your face, so you're at least recognizable. I hand out a boatload of business cards with my name on it, office, this and that. I have an Instagram account, which I'm trying to slowly start marketing on that. The one thing I do wish I learned more about in school was marketing. They don't teach us a whole lot of that. But that's the thing, you just gotta advertise, and you gotta find ways to get people in the door, make good connections, and have them refer back to you.
Okay, back to money. How much does a chiropractor, talking about someone who like yourself is working in a business, you don't own it, what kind of salary range is someone potentially looking at?
So there's many different options. You could kind of luck out, which is what I'm doing with that Winkler practice, where the doc is actually moving away for a year. So I'm going in there and I'm taking over 3 days a week and seeing a steady patient load. So I'll be making a lot more money out there than I will be in the city. If you take over for a doc and the people like you, then you're going to be busy right off the hop. A lot of places, they just hire associates and new docs. And then again, because they have that name recognition, they're already getting that new patient intake. So for the first year, if I would have just stayed at my one clinic, I would probably ballpark it around 50 grand.
Okay.
But with my other one, it's probably going to be closer to 6 figures. So the option is definitely there to be able to make money. You just have to, want to drive to Winkler or somewhere 3 days a week and put some extra time in.
Exactly. Okay. Well, that's awesome, Zach. We're out of time. I got to jump, but I really appreciate it. And I think this was just terrific for the students to get a real eye opener to your world. Thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Next up, last but not least, is Caitlin Gray. Caitlin is a senior commodity merchant with James Richardson International. Caitlin, are you there?
I'm here.
There you are.
Greg.
Welcome.
Thank you for the kind introduction. And thank you so much for having me today. This is a really great opportunity to speak to high school students. This isn't normally part of my normal job description, so this is kind of different for me. To be honest, I'm nervous. And I think what a great program Junior Achievement is, and what a great thing that you young students can add to your resumes as you look towards building out your careers and whatnot. So as Greg said, I work for Richardson International, which is Canada's largest agribusiness. We are involved in every aspect of the agriculture cycle. And to me, that starts at the farmer level. So we work with farmers in all over Canada. We help supply them with the inputs that they need to grow their crop. We will then later buy their grain and oil seeds once they've harvested the grain. We'll buy it, and we either move it into a domestic or an export market. We actually export all over the world, or we might also choose to process that grain. We're a large processor of canola, which is made into canola oil, margarines. We also are North America's largest oat processor, so oatmeal, granola, and we also process durum into semolina, which is used to make pasta. So 16 years ago, I graduated high school. I then spent 4 years at the University of Manitoba, and now I've worked for Richardson for about 12 years. And leading up to today, I was really kind of thinking about who I was when I was in high school and what I thought I would do with my life and how that kind of shaped who I am today. And, had you asked me 16 years ago, I think I would have chosen a career much like Anna's. I developed a passion for agriculture at a very young age, and I kind of became really interested in how consumers knew about where their food was coming from. And that was something that when I was in high school, I spent a lot of time volunteering, just kind of helping with the agriculture education side of things. My history is a little bit unique. I actually grew up on a dairy farm in New Brunswick. My family moved our dairy farm from New Brunswick to southern Manitoba when I was 15 years old. And that was kind of a pivotal time for me because I started grade 10 in a very small town in southern Manitoba. I went from a high school in Fredericton, New Brunswick that had a graduating class of about 400 students to my graduating class was 27. So completely different environment that I was kind of thrown into. And because of that, to be honest, I didn't like high school. It wasn't something that I enjoyed doing. So I spent a lot more time out on the farm. I spent a lot more time volunteering in the agriculture industry, like I had mentioned previously. And my goal there was to look for people with common interests that I could make friends with and kind of build a bit of a community. So naturally, after I completed high school, I chose agriculture. And that's something that even to this day that I have a lot of passion about. To help me narrow my paths towards my degree, I really kind of went through a process of elimination. I really didn't love sciences. I was more into like artsy things. I was more into you know, writing things and this and that. So I liked the idea of also traveling. I loved the idea of international marketing. I loved the idea of being able to feed the world. So I settled on a degree in international agribusiness. And I guess if you want to be a little bit technical, the actual title is Bachelor of Science in International Agribusiness. And this really allowed me to get a wide array of different experiences through university. I took crop production, animal sciences, international business, accounting, management sciences, all different kind of areas of sciences and business, which as I highlighted earlier, I didn't like sciences. So that was kind of a struggle for me. But the other kind of interesting thing was that I was able to take a minor in Asian studies, which gave me the international component of the business, agribusiness degree. So it gave me a little bit of a unique opportunity to learn about Asian history and whatnot. So in my 12 years with Richardson, kind of fun, I've actually been given the opportunity to hold 9 different positions. And this has given me different experiences in a wide array of the company, from the farmer level all the way up to where I am today, working at our head office in downtown Winnipeg. Right after university, I was looking for basically just an opportunity to get out of Manitoba. I wasn't liking it here anymore. So I moved to Northern Alberta, kind of just on a whim. I expected that I was going to stay about 6 months out there, and I ended up staying 4.5 years and loving it. After about 4.5 years, I kind of wanted to come back to Manitoba, and I was very fortunate to have had that opportunity with Richardson to continue to work for Richardson. They helped me move back. When I started as basically my title was agribusiness assistant. And that was kind of like a paid 1-year internship to give me experience and exposure to our different areas of business. And then from there, I've really kind of just developed into where I am today. My title today is Senior Commodity Merchant, and I work with our merchandising, our operations, our groups to help build and communicate our strategy to buy grain from Western Canadian producers, and then later move that grain through the network to the respective domestic processing or export markets that I mentioned earlier. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Is there any questions that I can answer?
Yeah, we've got a few questions. Hardest part about your job, or the most stressful part of your job?
Essentially, a lot of what we do is supply chain management. And so the hardest part of our job is just piecing everything together. And I often define our grain pipeline as a Rubik's Cube with the colors that change every single day and moment. There's a lot of different factors and little components that you don't often think about that go into buying grain from farmers and moving it to the respective markets, and a lot of things that can change on a day-to-day basis that makes it very difficult to manage.
How do you see agriculture is obviously a broad industry across Canada and the world, but within your world, how do you see it changing in the next year or two? Or what changes are already happening that continue to happen?
Well, I guess a big part of my what changes agriculture is production. We're constantly monitoring production around the world, different global things that may be happening that are influencing the different markets that we deal with. we see over the last couple years that inflation has impacted our business a lot. And I think that's going to continue. And I think that, there's a lot of different factors that are influencing our day to day.
Okay. If somebody, like one of the students is asking if they're in high school right now and if they were thinking about sort of your industry in agriculture, is there things in high school that they should be steering themselves towards as far as a course selection goes?
Well, when I was in high school, I took the obvious prerequisites to get into university. I took different sciences, so whether that be biology, physics, chemistry. I took advanced maths. Once I got into university, I still needed to take calculus and linear algebra as like first year prerequisites for my degree, and different basic sciences.
Gotcha. Okay. Different type of question. You look like you're at the office, not working remotely or home, which is a pretty famous building. But that being said, do people get to work remotely or from home in your industry after COVID? I mean, assuming during COVID they did, but after COVID and current?
In the industry, for sure, there are people that are working from home, and that has been one of the I would say biggest driver of just hiring people as of the last 3-4 years. For Richardson, since we kind of consider ourselves, since we're involved in the processing industry, we're involved in moving grain into markets. We view ourselves as an essential service. So I actually came to the office the whole time through COVID, and that's something that I wanted to enjoy. They spaced us out a lot through COVID, and they made sure that we weren't kind of too close together kind of thing. But being an essential service, it was something that was kind of important to us to come to the office consistently.
Okay. Do you know, someone's asking, is there anything that you can do within school related to like getting educated on supply chain and all the things in that industry and that sort of that part of the world?
So it's been 16 years since high school. I'm not sure on the different courses that are offered, to be honest. When I was in high school, getting involved in the community was the biggest thing for me. And, I worked all through high school as well. So maybe a job opportunity in a related field might be kind of something that you can kind of get your foot in the door, if you will. I'm sure there are courses where you can learn different supply chain influences. And like I said earlier, I think that the starting base for that is going to be the harder maths, the calculus and linear algebra and whatnot. They're kind of, that's all theory behind that goes into building supply chain management.
Gotcha. Last question, and here you go. Where is your family's dairy farm located? What town?
So my brother farms 4 miles outside of St. Pierre-Joly.
Fantastic. Awesome. Okay, that's all the time we have. We've got to wrap it up. Kids are moving on to their next class, but thanks so much for joining us. It's a fascinating industry that you work in, Caitlin. Thanks so much. Okay, everybody, that brings us to the end of our first World of Choices session. Thanks to our 6 terrific speakers, and I hope all the students found today worthwhile and valuable. Teachers, in the coming days, we're going to send you a survey just to collect your thoughts on today's events. And our next sessions are May 3rd at 10:15 a.m. and May 9th at 2:15. And at those sessions, we'll have people from 12 totally new and different careers. So we look forward to seeing you all then. Thanks, everybody, and take care. Have a good day.